Hello, my friends. Thank you for joining me at Evolutionary Energy Arts once again. So, starting over in India, northern India, we have torrential rains killing 49. Severe flooding in the state of Uttar Pradesh, India today has resulted in the deaths of at least 49 people, caused widespread power outages, failure of public transport, and the collapse of buildings. As we can see here, these buildings just come straight down, crushing this car. And it's definitely a sad situation there. So New Delhi's Yamuna River crossed the danger mark of 204 meters by 1 meter today, leading authorities to issue an alert. The Meteorological Office has warned of heavy rainfall across much of northern India for the next 5 days, threatening to raise the water level even still further. And so we see this going on right now over in India. Belfast, Northern Ireland, deluged by 1 month's worth of rainfall in just 1 hour. So 88.2 millimeters of rain was recorded at Belfast International Airport this afternoon, which is well over Northern Ireland's July average of 81.2. So tremendous rains as we've been seeing, and just basically, there you go, 1 hour equals 1 month. And a big part of that is simply the volcanoes going off. So when you look now at the map, you see there's a lot more activity than there was just a week ago. And we see now minor activity going on through the Aleutians over here, up in Alaska. And then down, as we were looking at before, we had seen Michael down here in the South Sandwich Islands. And then we see other ones coming online as well. And it's getting busier and busier and busier with the volcano situation, which is just going to add to all of what we've been seeing. So when we're looking at individually, Sakurajima exploded, and that's a major one there. We have a level eruption at 26/10 Z, and ongoing low-level eruption at Aoba in Vanuatu. And Vanuatu has been getting pummeled. Sabancaya, Peru, sporadic emissions. Currently erupting, we have Agung, we have Ambren, Aoba, Bagana, and it just goes on and on and on. And you guys could just read this list, because this is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it feels like it's going to get so big that we're going to take all day just to read the list of the erupting volcanoes. Pretty incredible, the pickup in activity that we're seeing. And speaking of that, as we had touched on yesterday, the entire island of Vanuatu is having a complete evacuation state of emergency as the volcano now blacks out the sun. So a very strong eruption there that actually caused the sun to be blacked out. Very intense. And we have 21 injured as Typhoon Jongdari traverses West Japan, and it did hit with 120-mile-an-hour winds, so it was a pretty strong storm, and 21 people are injured in it, and adding to the woes of what Japan has gone through. Very, very rough season they've had so far over in Japan, as has China, as well as the rest of Southeast Asia. 5 killed as burnings turned to ash in California fires. So the California fires are growing still. They are raging on, and it's one of those things where you could just read the comments that people are making between the California fires and the fires in Greece, and make your own, formulate your own opinions on what's going on there. 38,000 people remained under evacuation orders Saturday and are staying with relatives or in hotels or shelters. And the fire in the Redding area has left 5 people dead, including a 70-year-old woman and her 2 young great-grandchildren. More than 500 buildings destroyed, threatening thousands of more as it rages into its 4th day. And so it grew to 131 square miles. And, it feels like we're having a replay of last year now at this point. Staten Island hit hard by storms, downed trees, wires, and flooding. As we could see, the wires caused some fires to go. Very intense low clouds there. Cars getting smashed from the trees coming down. Iceland. Iceland, they're having a year without a summer. Iceland's having its grayest, wettest summer since 1914, preceded by rain every single day in May. June saw less sunshine than any year since reliable monitoring began over 100 years ago. According to the Icelandic meteorologist Trausti Johnson, the UK heatwave is to blame. The people of Reykjavik are praying for sunshine in England and southern Scandinavia. The cold and overcast weather this summer has resulted in different factors, including a blocking high pressure over Western Europe and a cold spot in the North Atlantic. The jet stream has changed to a more meridional flow. These unusual conditions are expected to remain in place for at least the next 7 to 10 days. And we have seismic anomalies and pieces of the Earth's mantle found rising at both ends of the Cascadia Fault, modulate earthquake activity along the U.S. Pacific Northwest. So new seismic data provide structural basis for strong earthquakes that strike at both ends of the Pacific Northwest Fault Zone. With 4 years of data from 268 seismometers on the ocean floor and several hundred on land, researchers have found anomalies in the upper mantle below both ends of the Cascadia subduction zone. They may influence the location, frequency, and strength of earthquake events along the U.S. Pacific Northwest. The anomalies discovered under the southern Gorda deformation zone at the northern edge of the San Andreas Fault, under the Olympic Peninsula and southern Vancouver Island, point to pieces of the Earth's mantle, upper mantle, that are rising and buoyant because of melting rock and possibly elevated temperatures. As you can see, the map right here. So the anomalies, which reflect regions with lower seismic wave velocities than elsewhere beneath the fault line, point to pieces of the Earth's upper mantle that are rising and buoyant because of melting rock and possibly elevated temperatures, said Miles Bodmer, a University of Oregon doctoral student who led the study, now online as an accepted paper by the Journal of Geophysical Research Letters. The 620-mile subduction zone, which hasn't experienced a massive lengthways earthquake since 1700, is where the Juan de Fuca ocean plate dips under the North American continental plate. The fault zone stretches just offshore from northern Vancouver Island to Cape Mendocino in northern California, and the mantle is rising under the southern Gorda deformation zone at the northern edge of the San Andreas Fault and under the Olympic Peninsula and southern Vancouver Island. And that Gorda deformation zone is where we saw that swarm the other day. So what we see are these two anomalies that are beneath the subducting slab in the northern and southern parts of the subduction zone. These regions don't have the same behavior as the entire fault. There are 3 segments that do have their own distinct geological characteristics. The north and south segments have increased locking and increased tremor densities. So locking refers to how strongly 2 plates stick. If they're stuck together tightly, as is the case here, they are building up stress, and you could have the potential for a release of that stress or energy in very large earthquake events. Such quakes, while strong, are below that of the 9+ magnitude event projected should all of Cascadia rupture at once. He said, locking is much weaker in Cascadia's central section, which includes most of Oregon, where infrequent smaller quakes tend to occur from creeping along the plates. And so, yeah, we do know the potential there for something that would be massive. And we did see some very interesting swarming just a few days ago in that area. And we have a little bit of an uptick going on. We have a deadly 6.4 earthquake striking the Indonesian island of Lombok. At least 14 killed, 162 injured, thousands of damaged homes, and a landslide on Mount Rinjani. And so, as we see here, the 6.4, that's a pretty good size one. That's one of the biggest ones we've had in quite a while, really. And if we take a look at what's going on right now, Hawaii's got 537 earthquakes in a 24-hour period, and they had a 5.3 eruption yesterday. So Hawaii is on that every other day schedule right now, as we see the large ones over in Indonesia, 6.4 and a 6.0, And we see a lot of activity as usual over in California, Nevada, and Alaska. And looking at Ventusky and just checking out the forecast, I noticed that if we go out, and this is a relatively long range forecast. We're looking at this developing around the 6th and the 7th, but there does look to be two typhoons, potential for two typhoons, one of which would be relatively significant with top winds. I think I saw it registering around 100, yeah, just about 120 mile an hour. Now, chances are in this position, it won't affect anything majorly, but you definitely have to keep an eye open if it does develop like this, especially Baja California over there. More than likely, though, it'll end up going out to sea. And still, relatively nothing being shown in the Atlantic, thankfully. And there definitely is, continued activity, and we know we have one storm, Jungdari, that just hit, and then we do see other ones, pretty much forming again pretty quickly, and the potential for some more rain going on into the areas that are very, very saturated and have been getting just storm after storm after storm. So, not to loosen clouds, this is something we had talked about a few times before recently. Now, typically they normally begin to dim in late July and then fade away completely as August unfolds. That's their typical seasonal pattern. And this year, though, the night shining clouds are surging as July comes to an end, and that's because of the different atmospheric conditions that we have going on. So those clouds, not lucent clouds, form when summertime wisps of water vapor rise to the top of the atmosphere and then wrap themselves around specks of meteor smoke. And so different atmospheric conditions, we've seen a lot of fireballs, an awful lot of fireballs as well. And we've seen some spectacular cloud formations, just spectacular. So we have a juvenile whale shark washing ashore in Sanibel, Florida. And the question is, what killed it? This one's 21 foot long. And this is the, it's a very sad thing that the probable thing they're looking at is red tide. And they don't know for sure. They're going to do their thing and try to figure out what killed it. But it could have been the red tide, which is that horrible, harmful algae bloom that is not really also natural. And a lot of controversy going on with that. A lot of controversy down here. A lot of people up in arms. And very, very upset about what's going on with chemicals being washed out and all sorts of different stuff going on related to the big corporations down here around Lake Okeechobee, and causing a lot of these issues. And so it's just another sad sign of the health of the waters due to the big corporations. The root cause of depression and how to heal it. So we all know that dull ache of pointlessness, overwhelming sadness, and deep lack of interest in life, the fog of listless pain that blows in and then settles in, trapping us inside it. Most of us have suffered at some point in our lives from depression, be it a mild version following a major life event or a more prolonged episode that can get so severe it entraps us in an ever-compressing world of hopelessness, to such an extent that we consider ending our lives. Depression is one of the biggest issues in the world today, with a record number of people suffering from the dark cloud and soaring suicide rates. Depression is a crippling disease reaching epidemic proportions. Well-known author and journalist Johann Hari suffered depression as a teen, taking antidepressants from a tender age. Told, like so many others, his depression was the cause of a chemical imbalance in the brain. He later studied social sciences and embarked on a quest to discover the truth about the cause of his depression. He swallowed antidepressants, like millions of others, and after 13 years of pills without much change and a broad investigation into the true causes of depression, he is calling for a different approach. The chemical imbalance myth. His amazing journey involved hundreds of interviews over a dozen countries and led him to discover almost everything we know about depression and anxiety is wrong. You know, haven't we been talking about that in so many different realms lately? I started to research my book, Lost Connections, uncovering the real causes of depression and the unexpected solutions, because I was puzzled by two mysteries. Why was I still depressed when I was doing everything I had been told to do? I had identified the low serotonin in my brain. I was boosting my serotonin levels, yet I still felt awful. But there was a deeper mystery still. Why were so many people across the Western world feeling like me? Around 1 in 5 U.S. adults are taking at least one drug for a psychiatric problem. In Britain, antidepressant prescriptions have doubled in a decade, to the point where now 1 in 11 of us drug ourselves to deal with these feelings. What has been causing depression and its twin, anxiety, to spiral in this way? I began to ask myself, could it really be that in our separate heads, all of us has brain chemistries that were spontaneously malfunctioning at the same time? He said that between 65 and 80% of people on antidepressants are depressed again within a year. We've been telling ourselves this chemical story for 35 years, and every year depression and anxiety gets worse. Searching for answers to his own depression, he began a quest to solve the depression puzzle. To find answers, I ended up going on a 40,000-mile journey across the world and back. I talked to leading social scientists investigating these questions, to people who have been overcoming depression in unexpected ways. From an Amish village in Indiana to a Brazilian city that banned advertising, and a laboratory in Baltimore conducting a startling wave of experiments. From these people, I learned the best scientific evidence about what really causes depression and anxiety. Drugs don't heal the underlying causes of depression. In most cases, like Johann Hari's, people aren't even asked what's going on in their life. And we talked about this too. What was it? 11 seconds a doctor listens to you before he cuts you off, something like that. And just, is done with his investigating, really interrupts you. It's so sad in the Western culture that this is what we have. In most cases, like Johann Hari's, people aren't even asked what's going on in their life or if there could be a possible cause of the depression. Johann's research is strongly grounded in his own experience. He has battled the depression demon for much of his adult life and has a keen understanding of what it is to be depressed and all that it entails. I found that there is evidence that 7 specific factors in the way we are living today are causing depression and anxiety to rise, alongside 2 real biological factors, such as your genes, that can combine with these forces to make it worse. During his journey of discovery, he found scientific evidence that depression is caused by key issues with how we live. 7 of 9 depression-causing factors are all rooted in disconnection. Disconnection from meaningful work, disconnection from other people, from meaningful values, and from childhood trauma, disconnection from status and respect, from the natural world, and disconnection from a hopeful or secure future. Depression, at its deepest roots, stems from a lack of connection. It's a disease of disconnection. So what does heal depression? Understanding the root cause of depression is a vital step in being able to cure it. Our longing for connection is innate. It never leaves us. Perhaps depression and anxiety are an early warning signal, an engine light, alerting us to the malfunctioning of a car. Hari says depression is a collective problem. There is something very wrong with the way our society works. We all know it and we can sense it. And they give us an opportunity to make vital changes in our lives. He advocates reconnection, or what he calls a different kind of antidepressant. Depression and anxiety might in one way be the sanest reaction you have. It's a signal saying you shouldn't have to live this way, and if you aren't helped to find a better path, you will be missing out on so much that is best about being a human. In his new book, suggests 7 reconnections. We need to reconnect to other people, to social prescribing, to meaningful work, and to meaningful values. Reconnect to sympathetic joy and overcome the addiction we have to the self. We also need to acknowledge and overcome our childhood trauma and restore our future. It seems what's called for in healing depression is a complete and radical reconnection. To someone who's depressed, this might seem deeply overwhelming, but it's a way of rebuilding our lives, rising like a phoenix from the ashes and saying, I want something different. I know there's more out there for me. I know there's a different way, and I don't have to do it alone. After I learned all this and what it means for all of us, I started to long for the power to go back in time and speak to my teenage self. On the day he was told a story about his depression that was going to send him off in the wrong direction for so many years, I wanted to tell him, the pain you are feeling is not a pathology, it's not crazy, it's a signal that your natural psychological needs are not being met. It's a form of grief for yourself and for the culture you live in going so wrong. I know how much it hurts, I know how deeply it cuts you, but you need to listen to the signal. We all need to listen to the people around us sending out this signal. It's telling you what is going wrong. It's telling you that you need to be connected in so many deep and stirring ways, and that you aren't there yet, but you can be one day. Once again, as with most things in life, the map to finding our way out of pain and back to well-being is connection. As humans, we are built for connection, for love, and for intimacy. So what this evidence is telling me is that this search for quick individual solutions is a trap. In fact, the search for individual solutions is part of what got us into this problem in the first place. We have become imprisoned inside our own egos, walled off where true connection cannot reach us. And that's it. It's a problem of ego. It's still a problem of this society. And so we need to reconnect. And there's so many ways to reconnect. Realize again, as he says here, if you're depressed and anxious, you're not a machine with malfunctioning parts. You're a human being with unmet needs. The only real way out of our epidemic of despair is for all of us together to begin to meet those human needs, for a deeper connection to the things that really matter in life. And, we don't need to just simply medicate so we don't feel. That doesn't get you anywhere but cause other problems. And as we've noticed, this is one of the problems with this society. It's just basically, the Western mindset just covers up issues. And, when you are taking all these different drugs, you're constantly creating new issues. And you are throwing yourself out of balance chemically then. How can you increase serotonin levels naturally? Well, stimulate the pineal gland, because the pineal gland is what secretes serotonin and melatonin. How do you stimulate it? Get out in the sun. The sunlight will. So don't wall yourself up indoors all the time. Don't just sit in front of the TV and be away from people. Get out in the sun. A perfect activity for something, just along those lines is simply to do something like a trip to the beach and a drum circle. You're getting the sunlight coming in and on you. It's increasing your vitamin D. It's boosting all your chemical reactions in the body. And also music is powerful and music is transformative. And then when you're in a group and you're feeling the energy of the group and the connection, that's why, like, say, drum circles, for instance, are getting to be so huge and so popular. At least they are over here and in some other areas of the country as well. Very popular thing. When, as I've said to you guys before, in the few towns we have over here within, a 20-minute ride, there's drum circles like 5 nights out of the week, which is pretty cool. And it really does lead to a better sense of connection. And there's many other ways you could do this as well. And we've talked about other things that are going to boost the feel-good chemicals, get you out of the fight or flight, and get you more into the rest and digest nervous system. And, we are communal creatures, really. There are those of us that will wall ourselves up and that will hide away from society. But honestly, we're meant to interact with each other. And we've lost touch of so much of that, and we're just wrapped up in everything that's just hurtling us along at such a fast speed that we don't have the time to really connect to people. I mean, and in some places people don't really even say, "Hey, how are you doing today?" when you're walking down the street. They just look straight ahead and ignore everybody. And that's a sad part of our society, that we're not taking time to reconnect with each other on a regular basis, which is something we need to do. So as we know, so many of these prescriptions, they just mask. They don't get to the root. And the root in Chinese medicine of all dis-ease, for the most part, is really it's emotions and energy. And it's stuck, stagnant energy. It's blocked energy. It's a not having enough energy. It's having too much energy and not circulating it. So it's always an energy situation and an emotional situation. So we need to reconnect. We need to lift each other up. We need to be there for each other in every way, just as we've been talking about on this channel since day one. So realize that, and if you know somebody that's suffering from depression, reach out to them and try to pull them into the tribe. Try to pull them into being around other people and feeling that sense of connectedness, and give them a hug. Hugs are healing. So give them a hug, tell them that you care, and show a little love and a little compassion. And we need more of that. That's what we really need to build on. Picking each other up in so many ways, especially in these times when there's so much going on in this world in so many levels. So my friends, may you always be blessed with abundant love, peace, happiness, well-being, and good health. Always be kept safe. Please do thumbs up to support the channel. Subscribe and join us if you haven't joined yet. Click the bell so you get all the notifications. Please do share with as many people as possible so we could get the word out and start spreading some knowledge, waking people up, getting people on board. And as always, God bless and namaste, my friends.